Welcome to your turning point. You're about to discover 3 key skills that can redefine your approach to the new year. Imagine a year where every challenge becomes an opportunity, where every setback is really a setup for your comeback. In my opinion, after over a decade in the engineering profession, the key of what separates the people that dream for the results and those that actually achieve them is in mastering these 3 skills. 1, learning how to learn. 2, the power of simplifying. And 3, clear communication. Hi everyone, I'm Brandon from Peak Life, and in this channel, we journey together to design, build, and live our own peak life. In today's video, we're gonna unlock the secrets with 3 key skills to achieving your best year yet. Let's get started. Skill number 1 is learning how to learn. A skill that in today's fast-paced environment, with technology that seems to be growing faster than we can keep up, is now more important than ever to master. Continuous learning is no longer just a nice to have, but instead a necessity. We need to make sure that we embrace a growth mindset. We need to cultivate the belief that skills and intelligence can grow over time, but it does require effort. We need to stay informed, stay up to date with the latest trends, technology, and keep our knowledge growing. This can be done with books, podcasts, or even YouTube videos like this one. And a great way to learn how to learn is to seek continuous feedback. We need to use feedback as a tool for improvement and becoming better. This can be from a mentor, your boss, or my favorite, you can create your own feedback loop by looking at the decisions that you've made, the actions that you've taken in your skill set through the frame of your own 80-year-old self. While there are many techniques for effective learning, the 3 most important points that I want to make is to use diverse learning methods. You should be combining reading, watching, and actually doing those skills. And you can't just theoretically learn. There's a joke that goes like this: do you know what the difference is between in theory and in practice? Well, in theory there is no difference, but in practice there is. You need to use your hands-on experience to actually apply those skills that you learn in your books and your videos. Simply watching and absorbing isn't enough. You have to try them out. And once you have a base knowledge, it's the best method to actually teach and share those. Because not only are you helping someone else, but the act of teaching helps reinforce the concepts in your head and improve them. In today's digital age, there's so many different resources and knowledge bases. I personally love online training platforms. Places like Masterclass, Skillshare, or even all the free videos on YouTube are endlessly helpful. And if you're looking for something specific, like writing, blogging, or YouTubing, I highly recommend checking out specific courses. While these might cost you $1,000 or a few $1,000s, there is no better return on your investment than investing in yourself. And of course, the endless list of personal development books. There's probably no better return on your investment than reading. It might take someone 3 to 10 years to write a book that you can read in 4 to 8 hours. There's 3 books that I highly recommend you read if you're trying to improve your ability to learn. 1 is The 4-Hour Chef by Tim Ferriss, which is all about the skill of meta-learning. 2nd is the classic Atomic Habits by James Clear, where you can figure out how habits work and how to create a habit into learning and getting better. And finally, the book Everything is Figure-Outable, where it breaks down the notion that you have to be a professional. And instead, you can see that you really can learn anything by just investing enough time and effort. An action item to improve your continuous learning ability and your skill set is to set time aside to learn and to read. So I challenge you, set aside 30 minutes every day. You can use this for focused learning on your skill set or for reading one of these books. Personally, I listen to about an hour of an audiobook a day, and I try to do 15 minutes of hard copy reading as well every night. These tiny habits add up to huge benefits over a year. Imagine what can be accomplished and learned over a decade. On to skill number 2, the power of simplifying. In today's world of complexity, it can often become a barrier to progress. But the people that know how to take out what is actually important from the noise find themselves getting ahead of the 99%. Here's a few tips that you can use to improve your ability to simplify. Number 1 is breaking down complex tasks. Whenever we start a project, usually there's 1,000 things to do, and it just seems overwhelming. So instead, take these complex projects whether it's in your professional or personal life, and break them down into small manageable tasks or milestones that can be accomplished within the week. To do this, you need to identify the key components. What actually has to be done in that week? Next, you need to prioritize. Focus on the high leverage items, the critical tasks that must be done, not the nice to haves, but the must haves. And finally, simplify each step. Remove the complexity. Break it down to the bare bones and get started. The next key step to simplifying is eliminating unnecessary steps. Look at your processes and streamline them. Remove the redundant or unnecessary steps that are just taking time but not providing any value. To do this, you can conduct a process audit. Regularly review and update your workflows. Next, remove the bottlenecks. Try to find the items that always slow you down and find ways to streamline this. And finally, for removing unnecessary steps, sometimes you can't remove a step, but that doesn't mean that you have to be the one doing it. Instead, delegate and elevate. Find someone else in your household or your work that enjoys doing those steps, who's better suited for that level of detail, and allow them to perform those tasks for you. While there's endless softwares and different tools for simplification, I think it's best to stick with ones that are tried and true. And the three that I recommend are: number one, the Eisenhower box, where you create a grid that include the urgent and important, the important but not urgent, and the not urgent and not important. Review what is urgent and important and eliminate everything that isn't urgent and isn't important. Next, this goes with the Eisenhower box, but it's the 80-20 Pareto principle, where you review what inputs you can produce or you can make that give the biggest leverage outputs. What 20% of inputs account for 80% of the results you want. And finally, systemize. Whether this is your laundry schedule, your cooking schedule, or if it's at work, how you actually produce the workflows, write it down and systemize it so that every time you do it the same way at the same time. The action item for this is to review your home life and your professional life. Use the Eisenhower box and the Pareto principle to figure out what you can eliminate that isn't important so that you can allocate more time to what is. And once you do that, find a way to systemize it to improve the productivity and your output. My 3 recommended books to help you improve how you simplify your systems are as follows. 1, Essentialism, the disciplined pursuit of less. Essentialism focuses on the concept of doing less but better, and it offers practical advice on how to simplify and improve your life and your work. I did a complete video review that you can see up here. Book number 2 is Deep Work by Cal Newport. This book shows the power of single tasking and working on the most important item. In this book, it explains how oftentimes we think we're doing work, but really what we're doing is procrastinating and not doing the main thing. And finally, book number 3 is The One Thing by Gary Keller. Out of all the books I've read, this one has probably changed my life the most. This book explores the powerful concept that there's always one thing that is most important for us to be doing at any given time, and that we should spend our effort figuring out what that one thing is and put as much time and energy into it as possible. Oftentimes we think that we have to do these 20 items, but in reality, those aren't producing the real results. And on to my favorite, skill number 3, clear communication. Clear and concise communication is absolutely key to be successful. No matter who you are or what you're doing, you need to work with other people, whether that's in your home life or in your professional life. And here's a few tips for how to improve that. Number 1 is active listening. We need to pay full attention and not just be listening and waiting to respond, but actually hearing what the other person's saying. When we're listening, we need to reflect and clarify. Repeat back what the person said, and if there's anything that you're unsure of, reiterate it and clarify so that you're both on the same page. And of course, you need to show empathy. Whoever you're dealing with, they have their own lens and frameworks that they make decisions from. So try to understand where the other person's coming from and show that you care about their values and their point of view. Next, in our communication, we need clarity and conciseness. Whenever you're communicating, practice delivering your communication in a clear and straightforward manner. To do this, you should plan your message. Don't just shoot off the cusp. If you have a speech coming up or a meeting, write down the topics that you're actually going to talk about. Put time up front so that you know what you're trying to say. Next, be direct. Everyone's time is valuable. Don't beat around the bush. Get to the point so that everyone knows what you're actually talking about and what you want. And of course, be simple, clear, and concise. Don't use 3 words where 2 words will do. And don't use 2 words if 1 will summarize it just as well. Avoid complex jargon. Talk in everyday speech. Be concise by laying out what you're trying to say. Say it once and be done. Next, you need to adapt to your audience. It doesn't matter what you say, what matters is what they hear. And every audience will hear something different depending on where they're coming from, what their values are, and what their point of view is. Choose the right medium. I find this all the time with working with engineers versus salespeople. Some people want long written Word documents or emails, where other people want a simple text or a phone call. And of course, be responsive. Understand how they're hearing you and try to be as engaging as possible. An action item for this is in your next few conversations, actively try to listen. Be responsive to the person. Try to understand where they're coming from and what problem they're trying to solve. And in this video up here is my calm approach for mastering tough conversations, which I suggest you watch. There are 3 great books that I recommend you read to improve your communication. Number 1 is my most read book of all time, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. This timeless classic dives into how to build relationships, how to effectively communicate, and obviously, how to win friends and influence people. Book number 2 is Never Split the Difference by FBI negotiator Chris Voss. This book provides insights into the art of negotiation, and once you read it, you realize almost every communication and every interaction is effectively a negotiation, where you're trying to get what you want and the other person's trying to get what they want. And finally, book number 3, which is a great book but a bad title, Nonviolent Communication by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. This book introduces a transformational method of communication that encourages speaking from the heart, listening with compassion, and building mutual respect and empathy so that you can get what you need and the other person can get what they need. Well, there you have my 3 skills that you should try to master to thrive in this next year. To recap, they are 1, learning how to learn, 2, the power of simplifying, and 3, clear communication. So start incorporating these into your daily routine, and you'll quickly be on your way to living your peak life this next year. If you enjoyed this video, check out 7 tips to elevate your engineering career. And please like and subscribe so that you can get more content to help design, build, and live your own peak life. See you in the next one.